Okay, I'm going to go through my guitar ownership history from 2013 when I started playing again till now, which is January of 2021. There's 47 guitars here, so I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can. And then at the end, I'm going to tally up ownership by brand as well as give out some awards and finally pick a winner. Also, to add some color to this, I'll be playing some original songs that I've written and recorded in the background, and on screen I'll list the guitar numbers that I use to play the rhythms and the leads as well. Okay, so kicking it off, first guitar was an Ibanez S540 made in Japan. I got the Jade Metallic, which is the greenish version of that. And I bought that guitar new in 1993, and then it sat in the closet for many, many, many years. And then I pulled it out again in 2013 when I started playing again. Number two, next I first then went to an Ernie Ball Music Man, the JP6. Really good guitar, but the pickup selector is in a place where I would bang my hand on it when I strummed the guitar, and that was a no-go. So I moved on to an Ibanez RG, the first of many that you're going to see on here. So this was a really good guitar, 3570, made in Japan, and I had this for some time and enjoyed it. Next was a Jackson Soloist Pro. So this is an import version. There was nothing about this guitar that really resonated with me, and so I let that go pretty quickly. Next was an interesting one, a Jackson Scott Ian signature. This guitar was just an absolute beast, and it was the heaviest guitar far and away that I've ever owned. I didn't put it on scale, but it had to be 10 pounds or more. It had even a bigger body than a traditional soloist, and I remember reading an article with Scott Ian, and he said he did that to get a little bit chunkier tone, and I think it worked because this had a super chunky tone, but it was just way too heavy for me, so that one didn't stay that long. Okay, next was my first bass, a Yamaha bass. I had that, and then quickly thereafter got a Schecter 5-string bass because I was doing down-tune stuff at the time and figured that would be a good move. And that was a great bass, a Stiletto 5, and I'd have it today if it hadn't had a pretty major accident. Okay, next is a Schecter guitar for so many. This is a Banshee 6 fixed bridge, active pickups. Fabulous guitar. I ended up selling it at some point, but I got another one just like it that I still have today. Next was a Schecter Dan Donegan, so the guy from Disturbed. I was into Disturbed at the time, and I liked just this guitar, a super unique look to it, and I got this. So it was really nice. Mahogany body, pretty heavy, pretty kind of thick, full guitar. Had a thick, full tone. It had an El Diablo Seymour Duncan pickup in it, which is also, I think, what was in the Scott Ian Sig, and it was super hot, kind of unique tone to it. It was a cool guitar. All right, moving on to, this was one of my more unique guitars that I had, an ESP made in Japan, John Denias signature. This guitar was really unique. It was an African mahogany body, so it's really light. It had a cool flame maple top, ebony board, EMGs, fixed bridge, so pretty basic setup to the guitar, but it was super fun to play, super light. Okay, moving on, another Schecter. This one was unique because it was extended scale. It was 26.5. I was looking to get a little bit more depth to a tone from an extended scale. That definitely worked in this guitar, and this guitar also was far and away the most playable 26.5 that I've ever played. And Schecter just really did it right with that. I don't think they make these anymore, I guess for demand, but man, it was a really cool guitar. Sounded great too. All right, another cool one, a Jackson Dominion made in Japan model, the Mark Morton Sig. This was an effort to get a Les Paul, but not a Les Paul, and something that was more comfortable and playable. And man, this thing definitely scored on all accounts. And I don't have this anymore. This is my biggest regret. You really can't get these used. And the models they're making now, wherever they're importing them from, they're nothing like this. This was really high quality, made in Japan, thick, kind of mahogany body, ebony board, super playable. I upgraded the pickups to Black Winters, which sounded fabulous. And also the split coils in this thing really sounded good. This was surprisingly versatile. Okay, next was an RG-121. A lot of people talked about these because they were fixed bridge and they were mahogany body. And so for metal rhythm work, I never bonded with this thing at all. I couldn't get it to intonate. Nobody could get it to intonate. I upgraded the pickups to aftermaths, and it just was a mess. It was a buzzy mess. so that one left. So here's a quick family photo at the time. Looking back, a pretty good collection of metal guitars. The John Denias Sig, the Dan Donegan Sig, the Mark Morton Sig, and then the Schecter Extended Scale and Schecter Banshee. Next was a Charvel SoCal. This was a great guitar, a kind of shredder guitar. Sounded good, stayed in tune well with the Floyd, and no regrets on that one. Next was another unique one, the Fender Blacktop. So this was 24 scale, but yet a fixed bridge. And the pickups were Fender, I think they were called Atomics, and they sounded really good. I ended up swapping them out for something else and then went back to these because they had this really good, hot, kind of vintage PAF vibe to them, and they could get dirty and they could get clean. And overall, it was just, with a shorter scale, it was just fun to run up and down this thing. I had a lot of fun with that guitar. Next is another RG. This was unique because it was 20th anniversary and came in pretty cool neon yellow color. The case was neon yellow as well. Maple board, typical RG. It was a good guitar. Schecter Hellraiser, didn't have that long. Don't remember exactly why I bought that one. Nothing wrong with it, just didn't jive with it. Okay, then another Ibanez, this time a fixed bridge RG. This was a great guitar. I had it for a while. I've got another one in blue right now that I still have and have had for a long time, so good guitars. Unique one here, an Ibanez J Custom. The only J Custom I'd ever had, really cool with the Tree of Life inlay there, mahogany body, maple cap on that, edge zero trem. Don't remember what pups were in that, but a buddy of mine gave that guitar to me, and I had it for quite a while. I ended up trading it for a Sir, which you'll hear a lot more about later. Okay, I had an LTD. This was these 40 anniversary versions. The EMG's some kind in it. I thought it sounded like crap, and it just didn't stay long at all. Next was an Ibanez S, made in Japan. I really thought the color on this and the name Doomburst, just pretty cool. This was a really high quality, well-made guitar. Had it for a while, ultimately decided that I liked the RG shape better, so I let that one go. Next was a Jackson Fusion, made in Japan, short scale, 2475, but a shredder. The guy I bought it from had upgraded the pickups to something Seymour Duncan's. They sounded really good. The neck pickup I remember sounding really good. Stayed in tune well after all these years. Sold it because the short scale and 24 frets just got kind of cramped up top. Next was my foray into 7 strings, but this was an Ibanez, kind of their intro version, Indo made guitar. The one I got used from Guitar Center came with this huge chunk out of the back, so it had to go back. But man, it played great. It sounded great. It sounded good on leads. It got heavy on rhythms. So that fueled my fire to continue with those. So next I got an Ibanez made in Japan model, fixed bridge, a 752. Coolest thing about this guitar was the color. It was subterranean purple, and it just looked really cool. It looked different depending on the light. It could go from really purple to black or anywhere in between. I upgraded the pickups to a Blaze Custom and an illuminator in that. Sounded really good for leads, but I never could get the chunkiness I thought I should get or I wanted out of the rhythm side of this, so I let it go. Went from there to a Schecter, the Jeff Loomis 7, and I had this for about 2 minutes. The 2 minutes of playing on this, and the neck felt like a 2x4 to me, with just too wide, too big, just it felt very different than the Ibanez's, and didn't jive with it at all. Next, I stayed with the Jeff Loomis, though. I got a 6-string and a Floyd version. The pickups in this were the Jeff Loomis Actives. I just didn't think this guitar sounded good with those pickups. Everything else about it was fine, quality was fine, but I didn't jive with the tone, and that was enough for it to go back. Okay, next is another RG 652 fixed bridge. I've got this guitar today. Great guitar. I upgraded the pickups to a deactivator and a liquefier, and it sounds fabulous. Moving on, another Ibanez RG 1570. This has a little different neck profile than the Wizard, I think they're called HPs, that have been on most of the RGs that I've gotten. It's a little bit thicker than that, but sounded good, played good, just wasn't compelling to me, and ultimately I sold it. I went back to the RG 3570Z. I had that black version early on. Here I went with a little 80s with the red and the yellow pickups. I thought for a while that was a pretty cool color. Next was a cool one, Ernie Ball Music Man, a Luke 3 BFR. Super high quality guitar, played great, sounded great, had DiMarzio transitions in that one. In particular, the call out for me on this one is the trem. It's not locking like a Floyd, but yet, man, it's got a lot of range of motion to it. It's super sensitive. It can do a lot of work for you. It stays in tune really well, but yet you don't have the hassles of a locking tuner. I think really highly of Ernie Ball. Next is a Schecter Banshee Active 6. Importantly, this is made in Korea. I've got this guitar today, and you're going to hear about it on the awards because I just think really highly of these made in Korea Schecters. Okay, next Schecter Hellraiser. I wanted to try a Sustainiac, which I thought sounded really cool, and it was. But ultimately just decided it was kind of a toy and I didn't need it, so I moved on from that. So next I'm back to this Ibanez picture of these 1993 S's and got the nostalgia bug and wanted to go back to one of these, so I found one in the wood grain finish, picture of it there. Pretty much was everything I had remembered it was. It played great, it stayed in tune, but I just once again decided I liked the RG body shape better, so I let that one go. Next is the only Schecter that I've ever been disappointed with, a C1 Custom. It's a short scale 2475, which is why I got it. And this one just felt cheap, it played cheap, the tone wasn't good. It's the only disappointment I've ever had in a lot of Schecters. Next was, again, wanting a Les Paul, but wanting something more playable, so I tried the PRS Tremonti. It was a good guitar, probably would have been better if I got the fixed bridge version. I got the trem version there. Had it for a little while, no complaints with that guitar, but ultimately moved on. Next is an Ibanez bass, so I had to replace the Schecter bass, which I really liked, so I got this Ibanez, no complaints. Okay, we go to the Surf. So you're going to hear a lot about this guitar when we get to the recap and the awards section. This is the best guitar that I've ever owned. The versatility, the tone, the playability, the quality, everything about this guitar is just the best I've ever owned. This is a standard, but it's called a throwback, which means that it's got a swamp ash body. You can see the nice grain of the wood there. It's an HSS version. The bridge pickup is the SSH Plus. That bridge will do 80s rock, 80s metal, classic rock, like whatever you want it to do. And then the ML pickups in the neck and the middle sound really fabulous. They get the creamy strat tone right away. This guitar probably cured my gas. Not completely, you'll see there's a few more to go, but it cured a lot of the gas because at some point you're just like, what more would I be looking for? And that just really isn't much. All right, moving on. So we had an Ibanez RG. This is the only Indo-made Ibanez that I ever had, and it had some cool features. I really liked the blue fade color. I liked the maple board, and there's some other kind of unique things about the guitar. No complaints with it. Next was another Ernie Ball, the Cutlass. Never had one of these before, man. This thing nailed the strat tones. Next was a project, another Schecter Banshee. I put a original German low pro Floyd into this to get something that felt more like the Ibanez Edge Zeros, and that was a fabulous trem. It really was. I upgraded the pickups, ultimately sold it because I decided I didn't want to deal with Floyds anymore, but great guitar. Okay, finally at number 41, I actually get a Gibson. So here's the Les Paul, but I go for the HP, the high performance version, which has a belly cut, compound radius, and better access joint, I guess it is, to get higher up the neck, and delivered on all those. The problem was I bought it used, and somewhere along the way somebody stripped out the pickups for cheap replacements, pulled out the pots and all that, and put cheap stuff in there, so that one had to go back. Next, number 42 is my first gem. Good guitar. In particular, I remember liking the neck tones on this guitar, very thigh-ish, I guess. And then an Ibanez RG, the ash-bodied RG with the maple neck. This was a good guitar, simple, it was just HH version, simple setup for a trem version of an RG, and I liked it. Something a little different as I was moving a little bit more towards blues rock, an Ibanez Tallman. Man, this thing is so playable. It was super light in typical Ibanez fashion. It was just super playable. So now I go back to Gibson, my second try, do an HP again. This time the actual pickups and pots and wiring were in it, and this thing played fantastic. We're almost to the end here, so now we go back to Japan for a Dinky Performer. I got this because I've been reading that these had super thin shredder necks. I got this and actually didn't feel like the neck was that thin, kind of disappointed me, and so I moved on. And then the last guitar, so Schecter USA Custom, Nick Johnston, SIG model. I just got this a few days ago. So first impressions are it's really cool. It's got some unique features, a Wenge neck, a ebony board. I think those inlays, the fret dot markers are really cool. This is an HSS version, which is a little unique. It's got light distressing on it, and then I show a picture here, more detail on the neck, just to see how cool that looks, and then the back of the headstock, so you can just see the wood grain on this thing. It's really nice. I'm not going to include this guitar in any of the awards, not because it might not be deserving, but I just got it. My tech hasn't set it up yet, and I figured it just didn't qualify. So finally, a family photo here at the end. The Sir Throwback Standard, the Nick Johnson Schecter USA, Schecter Banshee, RG Fixed Bridge, and then the Ibanez bass. So finally, we're there to the guitar count. Ibanez leads the way at 18, Schecter at 12, Jackson at 5, Music Man at 3, Gibson at 2, and then ones clocking in with Fender, Charvel, Sir PRS, ESP, LTD, and Yamaha. And now to the awards. Most playable, Schecter Banshee, just so easy to play, so fun to play, and the fastest neck I think I've ever owned. Most versatile, definitely the Sir. Again, 80s rock, 80s metal, 70s classic to strat tones all day long. Sir will do any of it. Highest quality, gotta go with the Sir. The Schecter USA is probably there too, but again, it doesn't count. Best looking guitar, I'm gonna give that to the ESP John Denius, just because that flame top and the coloring of that wood was just so cool and so unique. Coolest, gotta go with the John Denius as well. Best shredder, again, Schecter Banshee, just so playable, sounds great. Best tone, Sir, for sure. Most metal, gotta go with ESP John Denius again. Best value, Schecter Banshee. And then regret is I gotta go with the Jackson Dominion made in Japan. So that's it, and the winner is the Sir. Best guitar I've ever owned. Quality, fit and finish, looks, playability, versatility, tone. This guitar has it all. That's it. If you made it through all this, thanks for watching. Take care.